No. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I can just continue to sign people in as we go because I want to give everybody plenty of time to ask questions. Um,
Sure.
I've been really looking forward to this webinar. It's called Cool Months, Hot Programs, Seasonal Programming Playbook. It has a fantastic title, and I want to thank everybody for coming today. Just got done telling everybody that sometimes the webinar moves slowly, and today it is moving slowly for me. So just give it just a second. Okay, Holden, can you see if you can get the screen to move? There we go. Okay, I'm going to ask you to do that for me because I can get it to work. I want to thank our partners today, the Florida Humanities and Visit Florida and Florida Arts and Culture. Next slide, please. I want to introduce Melinda Horton. She's our executive director, and my name is Laura Nemmers. I am the program manager. Just some basic housekeeping information for today. We have closed captioning available, which is CC on your control panel. If you didn't notice, our presentation today is being recorded, so you'll have access to that after the meeting. If you have any questions, let's just hold out until the end of the meeting. And you can use the chat box or you can raise your hand, whichever you prefer. We are going to have a survey which will be sent out fairly soon. So if you could just please respond to the survey, that gives us a lot of information on how we're doing and what kinds of webinars you would also like to see in the future. Speaking of webinars, let me tell you about our upcoming webinars. On June 16th at 11 a.m., we're going to have a really exciting webinar on social media. That's with Kevin McNulty. It'll be at 11 o'clock. So if you can register for that or tell your colleagues about it who might be interested in learning about social media, we would really appreciate it. After that, we just started a new series called Common Grounds. I don't know if you attended the first one. The first one was with registrars and collections managers. The next one is going to be with people interested in fundraising. And Alice Lee Stansberry is going to be doing that one. And it's just an informal coffee chat. Just sign in. It's going to be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, sort of the end of your workday. Bring your coffee and just learn a little bit and discuss any questions, issues, anything you want to talk about fundraising. It's a fun time to just get to know your colleagues. Next slide, please. Going to introduce today's speakers. We have Susan Carter. Susan is the curator of collections and registrar at the Henry B. Plant Museum. She's a museum professional with several decades of experience in collections management and exhibition preparation. She's currently serving as the curator of collections and registrar at the Henry B. Plant Museum. She oversees and manages all aspects of the artifact collections, changing and permanent galleries and exhibitions, ensuring safe handling and preservation. She holds a BA in art history from the University of South Florida and completed collections management courses at the Smithsonian. She is a member of ARCS, SFA, FAM, and AIC and has a passion for historic preservation. Our next speaker is Amanda Hoffman. Amanda is a museum professional with expertise in interpretation, audience engagement, and creative programming. She serves as the Director of Education at the Tampa Bay History Center, where she creates engaging learning experiences that connect audiences with local history. Amanda holds a Master of Letters in Museum Studies from the University of Aberdeen and a BA in History. She's passionate about storytelling and making history accessible, engaging, and relevant. And thirdly, we have Holden Rasmussen. He's the archivist and company historian for the J.C. Newman Cigar Company. He received a Master of Arts in Global History of Commodities from the University of South Florida. Holden works with Florida history as well, from the Johns Committee to the Urban Renewal in the middle of the 20th century. At J.C. Newman Cigar Company, Holden coordinates all public history and guest experiences for America's last operating cigar company. And now we can start with our program.
All right. So hi, as you mentioned, my name's Amanda. I'm going to kick things off with a little bit of data from Tampa Bay. As you can see, the three of us that are participating in this webinar today are all from the Tampa Bay region. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight of who our typical visitors are and who the audiences that we engage with are before we get into like our typical programming in those cool months, which I love that you all commented that these are your cool months. That's very funny. But according to Visit Tampa Bay, who did a survey in 2025, we've truly become a destination, which means that 60% of our typical visitors are from out of state. Of those visitors, about 38 percent of them are spending money at local businesses like the J.C. Newman Museum, Plant Museum, and Tampa Bay History Center, which really means that those visitors are giving us meaningful economic impact. Of the local Florida visitors, a lot of them come from nearby areas. The most common is Orlando, but the ones that are in our immediate area that would be a daytime visitor would be from the East Lake, St. Petersburg, or Clearwater area, which is where we see most of our non-Tampa or non-member visitation. The thing I want to note, which you'll see in some of our programming today, is of those out of state visitors, about 25 to 34% of them are, I'm sorry, about 20% of them are in the 25 to 34 age range. So we are seeing a lot of younger visitors looking for programming in our immediate area in the proper city of Tampa. So that's just a little bit of insight of who we're seeing as visitors outside of our typical membership that we serve through our organizations. I think I have control of the slides. Oh, wonderful. Okay, Susan.
Hi, good morning. I'm Susan, and I'd just like to introduce you to the Henry Plant Museum. We opened as a museum back in 1933. We were a former railroad resort hotel and are now owned by the city of Tampa. After Henry Plant died in 1899, the city purchased the hotel and continued running it until 1932. And then the University of Tampa moved in, and we share the building with the university. We occupy about 18 rooms of the former Tampa Bay Hotel. So we're very small. We're on the bottom floor of this massive structure. We are a National Historic Landmark building. The collection is over $3 million that's left in our, 18 rooms, and it's mostly decorative art, um, painting, sculpture, and items purchased by Henry Plant to fill his resort hotel. Our visitation is over 33,000 annually, including school and group tours and guests from over 41 different countries. The building, with its exotic Moorish architecture, is a Tampa icon. Our museum is a CERM reciprocal program member, and we have lots of programs throughout the year. We do a sunset celebration once a month to bring in people for free for 3 hours in the evening. We also have a lot of educational programs throughout the year, a couple of changing exhibits per year, and special events such as the Victorian Stroll and also Erie Evening. I don't know if I can go to the next slide. Here we go.
Hi, my name's Holden Rasmussen. I am the company historian for J.C. Newman Cigar Company. The J.C. Newman Cigar Company is a working operating cigar manufacturer based in Tampa Bay. They also work overseas in the Dominican Republic and Nicaragua. So we have a very unique position where we are a for-profit manufacturing company first, and then a public history organ and hospitality organ second. And so this is something that we've really been growing and adjusting to over the last 7 years. The process really began in 2019. Our home office is based out of a historic cigar factory from 1910 as part of the Ybor City Historic Landmark District. And the company is still owned by the Newman family, and they felt it was high time to renovate it, both as part of a Century Club kind of effort to restore the building to its original glory. And also, we realized as time has gone on, cigars and tobacco and labor become so expensive in America that it's somewhat cost prohibitive. And out of more than 40,000 cigar factories in the United States, we're actually the last operating cigar factory, period. So we opened the building up to the public after restoring it as sort of a public history effort to commemorate Tampa's history and also American tobacco history. It's very unique. Um, the other aspect of that too is that JC Newman Cigar Company is a cigar company. We operate as JC Newman Hospitality, a subsidiary. The company overall employs more than 200 people in the Tampa Bay area, and we have a growing team of about 20 for the hospitality and museum aspect of things. Um, it's uh, it's definitely a job where you wear a lot of different hats, and it's growing and it's changing every day, and that's what makes it very exciting. And that's why I bring to the table the types of program that we have currently available seasonally, which is mainly we have a haunted house every October. JC Newman Cigar Company is based out of an old cigar factory, of course. There's a lot of mafia stories from Tampa's old days. There was an Italian mob based out of Ybor City where the cigar factories were. And there's a lot of ghost stories about the old cigar factories, stories about cigar makers working alongside each other. Maybe there was some sort of bad blood or beef, and somebody passed away very tragically, and their ghost still haunts the halls of the building. And that's very popular with that 25 to 34-year-old demographic we were mentioning earlier. It appeals to them very strongly. That's sort of like alt culture that is also wrapped up in Ybor City and other types of events that happen in October, like Hallow Scream, which is based out of Busch Gardens, and Halloween Horror Nights, which is based out of Universal Orlando. Yes, so beyond that, our seasonal offerings also include a Founders Day to commemorate the start of the company, May 5th, 1895. We have that each summer to kind of kick off the programming there, and some other more thematic cultural events. Like we commemorate this old job in a cigar factory called a lector. A lector was somebody who would have read newspapers or books with cigar makers in Spanish to entertain them. So we commemorate them once a year with a program. And we have a an old urban legend that if you wish upon the factory's clock on August 13th each year. It's a good luck, and so we have an annual like wishing hour event where people come and enjoy the factory and its history in the park. The benefit is that because we're already a cultural institution, we have a built-in audience of people who are, I would say, 25 to 60-year-old cigar enthusiasts who want to come, and they come to everything. It's actually quite funny. We'll do book signings and we'll do types of more artistic, more cultural, more intellectual events at the factory, and you'll have groups of artists, which is like very on brand for Ybor City, alongside cigar smokers. And it's just like, oh, okay, everybody comes to these events. So the benefit is we always have that built-in audience. We're also very plugged into the city of Tampa because we're seen as this like big, legitimate cultural institution for cigars, and it lets us bridge local politicians, historians, cigar enthusiasts, and the communities all together. So it really goes across the board from that summer event that I mentioned, Founders Day, to our haunted cigar factory, to the Lector event, and to the wishing hour as well. Believe it or not, this is actually the second year we will be doing a haunted house. It was the idea of our event planner because in the past we've done ghost tours. They wanted to take it up a notch. Ghost tours are great, but they're somewhat limited in scope. We only have so many docents or tour guides that you can assign to groups. So if you have one night where you have one time slot doing ghost tours and they go through the whole factory and listen to ghost stories, um, that's great, but it kind of throttles, it bottlenecks how many people you can have in the factory. So what we did instead was open it up to 3 nights. We did Thursday, Friday, Saturday, hoping that Friday and Saturday would appeal and draw in the most people. And we had a walk-through stationed event where you had staged ghost encounters. You had scare actors come out and scare you, tied into the history. We did make an original story based off true events. It's somewhat macabre, but there's a department in a cigar factory called destemming where you cut the tobacco leaves in half, and because it's such fine technical work, usually it's young women who do the tobacco leaf working and not any other type of worker. In the 1920s, before the company was the way it was now, before the Newmans bought the building, there was another cigar company there. And the guy who ran the department like fell in love with one of these girls and kidnapped her. And so we based the story off the haunted house off that real life story. The police had to rescue this young girl. It was like 1926. And so we play into that so you can have the legitimate ghost interpretation going through the whole pulse of the haunted house. And we were able to have like I think 15 groups each night. We had over 153 bookings with 400 plus participants of all ages, but definitely adult oriented. So we played to that strength by having a bar as well, you know. So as far as how we structured it, we wanted to get as many people in as possible. We wanted to have it 3 nights. We wanted to do it at a time where we weren't going to compete against other October Halloween events. So we did it kind of early to mid-October. And we made sure we played to that adult audience by having a bar, right? And of course, making sure that you gave prior notice to your interested participants that it's adult oriented. You didn't want it to be too graphic or too extreme for anybody under 18. As far as the challenges to executing the Haunted Factory, you've got a group of 15 strangers going through a staged ghost tour. You know, you've got to keep it simple. You've got to follow the script. You've got to make sure that your scare actors are all working on the same page. So communication is a must. Make sure you have really strong delegation of duty. Make sure you have really strong communication across all the teams. If you don't have like a great radio system already for your museum staff, looking and investing in that is definitely worth it. Um, Also, make sure that you have very clear responsibilities for each scare actor so they don't go above and beyond. And so there's no conflict with any other groups if you end up having two stacked groups. Timing's important. Make sure you have groups staged away from each other. And that's with anything, whether you do a haunted house or whether you do uh, a spooky season ghost tour. You want to make sure that you don't have two groups on top of each other. Another thing that that was challenging about having a haunted factory was incentivizing volunteers. You had to get probably 20 people there each night. And the ways that we did that was by asking for help, recruiting local HCC students, our local Hillsborough Community College. One of the professors is very close with our event planner, was offered extra credit to our students who would come and attend and be scare actors. We also gave out gift cards and we incentivized the scare actors with free food. So if that's within your operating budget, definitely use that to appeal to volunteers or just, you know, lean on your docent staff. The success of it was that it's way better and more engaging, in my opinion, than having ghost tours to the factory. It appeals to that 25 to 34-year-old crowd, as we mentioned earlier. You get way more people through. The alcohol reduces the overhead costs of operating and having the museum or just the location open late. We did have a food truck, but the food truck was not very successful. So when we're staging this for next year, we probably will not coordinate a food truck, just a bartender. And then, of course, having a period of waiting, as long as you don't get your lobby or staging area too crowded, is beneficial too, to play into that bar sales or play into the gift shop sales or whatever you may have. As for other programming, you could see those similar successes and challenges come through. Our biggest event, bar none, each year is definitely Founders Day. We get 1,200 plus attendees, and it's essentially a giant block party open to the public, right? And we have it at the beginning of May each year. That's something else that I want to talk about just because of the scale of it. It can definitely give you a lot of reconnaissance on how to stage large scale events. It involved staging about 20 plus vendors. It involved communicating and leaning on our social media team to make sure that people have heads up. We actually went and advertised it through local newspapers like Creative Loafing. It was something that was a broader appeal than the Haunted Factory. It was family friendly, family oriented. So we tried to make sure we got vendors and that were family friendly and had things for kids to do. But there was also an aspect of having a docent staff there that you had to communicate with, similar to the haunted house, because we were giving mini tours throughout the day. The idea was with Founders Day, you want to get in as many people as possible and get them interested. So one of the ways that we engage the public is by having a Cuban sandwich eating contest. As ridiculous that sounds, it's been going for 3 years now. We bring in people who are professional eaters, and they have an actual competition. I think the guy who won ate like 27 Cuban sandwiches, which is just mind blowing. I don't even know how that's possible. But the bottom line is that it's a great day for sales as far as the gift shop goes. I think we net more than $16,000 each year when we do it. That's the average. And there's an average transaction about $68 for each sale. So definitely getting volume in and having people there really helps as far as the operating costs of the museum and the factory store. The challenges are, of course, the massive amounts of people that come in on Founders Day. It's 1,200 plus people. So what's really important is, especially during the summer months, especially during the hot months, which is this is Florida, it's the name of the game. Beginning in April and going until November, it's hot outside. It's hot and it's muggy, and air conditioning breaks, and you need to have cool staging areas for your guests. So make sure if you ever do an event that involves indoors and outdoors and large numbers of people, you have safety valves. You have extra point of sales. If you want to have several cash registers running for the gift shop, make sure you have multiple waiting areas for large groups of people to sit down, especially those who are differently abled or senior and have a hard time walking, right? You want to have a cool zone too, where you have fans running, you have air moving, and you have water available to the public. And actually, what we've done before in Founders Day is we will have an AC technician on call. So if our AC ever goes out, we can have him come in and fix it because it has gone out before. We have an old building from 116 years ago, and the HVAC is great, but it struggles because again, it's just this huge brick building. So it's best to expect failures, right? Another thing that has happened too is vendors have agreed to show up and then they've not shown up on the day of. So making sure you follow up with vendors is important too. So communication, contingencies, and safety valves are the big takeaways from Founders Day. As for our other smaller events throughout the year, um, we've had spoken word events before honoring the electors, as I mentioned earlier. The main challenge there is you're inviting a wide range of people from local artists to political activists to slam poets in and having them read in front of a large audience. So making sure that you kind of vet the poetry to make sure it's appropriate and on topic is important. And then, of course, getting enough poets to read, reach out to friends, sister museums, lean on your support network to get people. If you want to have presenters, if you want to do anything like a spoken word event, a Chautauqua, anything where you have guest speakers or public history or living history, right? We also do that wishing hour event I mentioned earlier on August 13th. The main challenge there is getting enough people to attend. It's usually early in the morning. We try to have it at around 8:13, 8:15 in the morning. So making sure you get enough people there, rely on your social media team. If you have social media specialists, if you have marketing specialists, if you have interns, use them to the best of their ability because Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, it all has a lot of draw. And as for future plans, we are going to have to expand on that as far as having contingencies, safety valves, coordination, communication, and social media influence, because we're going to open up a hospitality annex the following year and really expand it throughout 2027 and 2028. It's going to be a historic restoration and preservation of an old boarding house across the street. So right now we operate a museum and a factory store and we have an archives as well. But we're looking to, at the end of 2026 and throughout 2027, open up a museum, cigar lounge, and restaurant across the street in an old boarding house and office from 1910. So we're very excited about that. It's been a very long, very expensive process, and the building's had a lot of challenges from cloth wiring to asbestos to bats living in the roof. But when it's all running, we're going to be very excited to host even more people. Right now, we get about 25,000 visitors a year, so we're hoping to boost that numbers with the increased availability of space through our hospitality annex. And as far as future experiences, right now we offer tours throughout the week. We offer cigar rolling classes for the public. We offer like tobacco tasting classes, like a wine tasting, but we're looking to do like cigar dinners across the street at the restaurant, and then even have a beer garden with some of the local brewers like Berry House here in Tampa. Yep, this is a slide that speaks to our growth over the years. I think right now we're probably going to be on track for 25,000, but you can see how it's grown over the years. This is very new, started in 2021. Yeah, and again, the takeaways here are we have kind of a unique position at stake in this because we're a for-profit company and we operate as a hospitality company and a museum. So we take profitability into account more than state institutions sometimes. But remember, I mean, increased profitability means increased bandwidth for your team. You know, if you have an event where there's an opportunity for it to be ticketed or to have a bartender play into the adult audience when appropriate, definitely try to get that 25 to 34-year-old demographic. Um, know your audience, of course, though. You need to know whether to have an event like a haunted house adult oriented versus a Founders Day block party, which is more family oriented. Rely upon your team. Delegate duties is very important to have clear enumerated roles and to tell people what actionable things you're going to be doing. You need to have, if you're going to have a block party, you need to have people who are designated retail workers, and that's their job. You need to have people who are tour guides. You need to have people who are floaters, and you definitely already have that power mapping in your institution. You just need to rely upon it. Radios, of course, invest in the radios, have contingencies for large events. And like I mentioned with the food truck and the haunted factory, cut things that don't work. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. That's an old John Gruden quote that Eric Newman always quotes every meeting. And that's it for me. Thank you. I'm going to pass the baton.
All right. Thank you, Holden. All right, so I'm going to talk about a different kind of program. While he talked primarily about things that affect that adult range, that 25 to 34, this program, A Night at the Museum, is primarily focused at families. I will note that it is called A Night at the Museum, not Night at the Museum, per film rights. So we have definitely changed our title slightly to accommodate our beloved film series. What I'd like to cover in a quick 10 to 15 minute range is structure, guest engagement, day of logistics, and then I'll touch on financials. But note, I'm happy to share my email. So if you have questions after the program, we can connect via email afterwards if you want any more specific information. So starting with structure, so the nuts and bolts of this program. As I mentioned, it's geared towards families, and it includes staggered entry times, so that we don't have everyone arriving at once. You've got to consider your space and staff capacity. So for example, the last time we ran this event, it went from 3 to 6:30. We had entry times every 15 minutes of about 65 people with walk-up tickets available, which meant that our visitor services team wasn't inundated with about 400 people all arriving at the same time. We found that staggered entry works best for families too, as they're going to be looking for parking and dropping people off and waiting, for people to park and come back. It also is a really great way to keep flow moving steadily. So we work with volunteers, which I'll touch on later, but it keeps a consistent flow for our volunteers to engage with visitors as they arrive rather than having a huge rush at the front. This is also a really good way to gauge the time that your guests want to arrive. So we've always found that people like to arrive a little bit earlier in the day as they've got kids that need bedtimes and there's dinner plans. But staggered entry time is the best when you're dealing with families. Occasionally you'll have people arrive earlier, but as Holden mentioned, that means that they're going to be going to your museum store. They're going to be going to your cafe. So it's sort of rising tides when it comes to guests waiting for their entry. We have, so if I haven't mentioned, this is a Halloween event that we do typically in the October months, about the first weekend before Halloween, depending on where Halloween falls. So kids arrive in costumes, and there are candy stations throughout the galleries. Do not worry, no one is eating candy in the galleries. We have that outlined on our candy passport, which I will show you in just a moment. But I know all of the museum flags just went off. No one eats candy in the galleries. It also includes a costume contest. Music and mood setting in our atrium as well as throughout the galleries. It has sort of a spooky tone, but not too spooky because we don't want to make the young ones scared, as Holden mentioned in his haunted house. Photo ops, we do a photo costume contest that boosts social media engagement. Roaming characters is a plus. We work with a few volunteer groups that roam through our galleries that aren't candy stations, which are stationary positions, that will do photo ops with kids, which means they're posting on social media, they're tagging the History Center, people are engaging with it. Crafts and games for all. We'll get to that a little bit later. And then working with staff and about 100 volunteers. So that's sort of the basics, and we'll go through each of those a little bit more in depth. Tickets. So as I mentioned, in advance and at the door. So you will find what we found that works best is doing timed entries every 15 minutes with 65 with at least 10 walk-ups. You will find that anytime you're doing an event and you have decorations or people walking towards you, people are naturally curious. You will also find that families sometimes forget to get tickets for their grandma or their aunt or someone who happened to be joining us for a family event that didn't buy a ticket in advance. So having tickets available at the door will very much boost sales and assist with you. I think the last 2 years we've sold out almost every walk-up ticket, so we've always considered adding additional ones. We sell out advance tickets every year. It's a very popular event because it's indoors. I hate admitting that, but that's a true thing, especially for families. It's great to have babies indoors, especially when they're in strollers. Price. We've toyed around with pricing a few times over the last few years. We've looked at, grouping family tickets together where they buy tickets as a family versus as individuals. We've looked at
Amanda, if you can hear us, you seem to have frozen up on my end.
with memberships. So it's very important to have, I think you guys might have lost me for a second.
We did, yeah.
Where did we leave off?
You were talking about your pricing structure, maybe having it a family pricing structure as opposed to $20 a person. I think she froze up again.
Wonderful. Okay, pricing structure. So so this is our pricing structure. So you can see the numbers there. Obviously, I won't repeat those, but something I will highly recommend is doing a member discount. We typically do anywhere between 15 to 20% for our members. Obviously, we have a lot of family level memberships, which means they come with their kids. So we definitely want to make sure that our members are coming back every year for this program. I'd also recommend a multi-ticket discount. If you have a family of 5 or 6 coming in, that little bit of discount is always an incentive when you're comparing things to, what's going on at the zoo or the aquarium or other Halloween events around town. Let's see, we're waiting for the slide to move. Internet connection is fun. Okay, so one of my favorite things to talk about is candy. Obviously, as this is a trick-or-treating event, which we'll get to in a moment, candy is a very big part of it and is going to be the bulk of your budget and the thing that you will spend your money on for your program. They have no teeth. You'll want people that want chocolate and fruit flavored candies. So make sure that you don't just have one specific type. Also, buy more than you think. The last thing that you want to do on an event day is go off site to buy more candy because you ran out. So always buy more than you think you will need. Trust me, you can see the photos here. This is my vehicle that we do a run every year. We call it the candy run. It's one of the highlights of my year, where we fill the back of it with over 2,000 pieces of candy, typically. The other thing I will recommend is working with a group called the Teal Pumpkin Project. The Teal Pumpkin Project is awesome. They coordinate with events around the country to highlight groups and organizations that work with families and offer non-edible options. These are great for children that have a need for anything that's non-edible. It could be an allergy related thing. So we always have small toys and trinkets that they can take in lieu of candy, which is wonderful. And buy in bulk. But buying in bulk is key. It will save you a lot of money in the long run rather than doing a Target or Walmart haul. Provide treat bags. We work with a local dentist who provides treat bags with their dentistry branding that we give for kids to use for treat bags if they forget to bring it themselves. That is our radio going off. Let's see, slide is moving. So candy stations. We typically have 20 candy stations around the museum. They make it super simple. Guests know exactly how many to visit. We have a candy passport that I'll show you in just a moment. We've used these, you can see the graphic there, for vinyl decals to put on the floor so they can identify what station they are at. This is a great way to keep the event flowing. That way nothing gets backed up or bottlenecked in one specific area, that they know if this station is full, there's 19 other ones, and I'll come back to this one to make sure I hit it. And I'll show you how they know where they've visited in the next slide as we go, which is a candy passport, which in my opinion is the best passport. So as I mentioned, we have 15 to 20 slides or stations depending on the year. And we actually give our volunteers stamps or stickers so they can put a stamp or sticker on that passport as our guests go. This is going to help you identify how much candy you need. If you know they visited all 15, then they don't get any more. That's fine. It also helps visitors know where they need to go next, which keeps the event flowing smoothly. We have ours outlined by floor. So we do 5 on each floor. We have 3 floors of our museum. This works very well. I highly recommend this for any event that requires guest flow. On the back of this passport, as I mentioned, it does talk about not eating your candy until after you've exited the galleries. It also has an outline of what to expect on each floor of the museum. So they know that the costume contest is on the 2nd floor. They know that there's craft and games on the 4th or on the 3rd floor. They know there's additional candy stations on the 4th floor. It also has the key things to know, including theater experiences, supervision, questions, concerns, and a notice for filming and photography, which is a great disclaimer for all of your guests to know. This is given to them when they check in with our visitor services team. And this is, again, you cannot overvalue the candy passport. It is the heart and soul of the event outside of the volunteers. The people that serve at these stations, to be honest with you, obviously we are a history museum, but you have to be realistic with who you are working with. It's got to be fun for kids. So we do a really healthy mix of historic and recognizable characters. As a shout out to Holden, I did feature our cigar shop in one of them as a tie-in to our gallery space. And who dressed as a cigar, one of our ads on the wall. And then there was a gallery tie-in. You'll also see on the other side, it's very important to have those familiar characters like Olaf and Elsa and Anna. Those are just crowd pleasers, and the audience expects that. For those that have been coming back the last few years, they do have that expectation, and you can never be mad about Rosie the Riveter. Let's see. Volunteers, heart and soul. Yes. 100 volunteers each year. So that includes people not only serving at candy stations, but also folks helping with wayfinding, photo ops throughout the galleries, people assisting with costume contests, people running candy to the stations. There are a candy captain who organizes the candy that goes out to all of the stations. Our teen council who assists with the green room. So they really are the most important part. Holden mentioned working with HCC, which is awesome. I also work with 2 other nonprofits called, we have the 501st Legion, which are wonderful. They all come dressed as stormtroopers and Star Wars characters. We work with Costumers for a Cause, which are cosplayers who go to other nonprofits to support their events. We also have an active group of reenactors that dress in historic attire, as well as our teen council who will dress as historic characters. we do always make donations, which we'll get to later, but I highly recommend finding your key reenactment groups in your area because they are always eager to support events like this, especially if they are inside. We cannot value indoor weather enough. But we have a lot of great partners who come back every year. There's never been an organization that we've worked with that doesn't return because is just such a fun event for them with the flow and getting to see the kids in that safe space. Wayfinding, you will need a lot of it. In addition to our candy passport, we have signage in our elevators. We have signage in the entrance of each floor, both in the staircase and in the elevator. We have floor captains that communicate via radio. We have informed staff and volunteers. Make sure every person on site who is volunteering or working your event knows exactly what is going on so that when guests come up to them, they can answer that question and in an accurate way. We do vinyl on the floor. The only thing I wish we could do is smoke signals. That is the only thing that we can't because we are inside. But that is would be very helpful to show where our costume contest is. But you will always need more wayfinding. Literal arrows on the floor are wonderful. Guests, unfortunately, do need to be told where to go, and they don't always read signage. So the more you have, the more likely they are to read it, which I know we all know as people who run programming, but just a healthy reminder. Costume contest. So we actually changed up this costume contest in the last couple of years. And this image to the left of the slide shows you why. We used to do a live announcement of our costume contest, but that meant that all of our guests, which would be at that 700 people, would wait around in the atrium for that announcement, which created a lot of bottleneck, a lot of heat, and just was not ideal in creating no movement in our atrium. So what we've done in the last few years is
Seems like Amanda's frozen up again. I guess we can see if she catches up. I hope she does. Or Amanda, if you hear me, if you want to log out and log back in, you can. Okay, looks like she's logged out, so maybe she'll log back in and we can see if we can hear the rest of her presentation. Okay, she has not asked to come back in yet. Do we want to move forward? Susan, do you want to go ahead and do yours and we can come back? I can move you forward.
Yes, I'm happy to.
Okay. If she comes back in, we'll tag her on
Can
to
back up. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you. I'm going to talk to you about our Victorian Christmas stroll and give you a little bit of the history of the event. Let me see if I can make the slides advance. Um, is anybody able to advance the slides? Mine is not advancing.
I got you.
Okay.
Okay, hang on, let me back you up. There you go.
I'll just start talking. Our event began as a 3-day event back in 1982, and it was called the Candlelight Tours way back then. Um, it was started as a friend raiser. We didn't have a charge in the early years. It was very simple. We decorated several of the manels within the museum. At that time, the museum only had a staff of one full-time and a half-time. And we did use um, live candles and greenery throughout. Okay, I'm trying to advance again. Not working. Um, so the first year or two, we decorated with live candles, and you can see that in the photo there to the right, which was very scary, but we did it for a couple of years, and then we quickly pivoted and changed and started using electric candles instead. At that time, we also used live greenery. And so the aromas throughout the museum were wonderful with the live boughs of garland and trees, but it was a curatorial nightmare. And we quickly changed to artificial trees and garlands after the first couple of years because there was a lot involved with watering the potted trees, and you don't want that around your museum objects. Our museum is set up almost like a historic house with period room settings, one after another. Can we go forward again, please, somebody? Some of our early themes were, here's one of them. One of the most popular themes was a fairy tale Christmas, and we did magical memories of a fairy tale past. And we had a volunteer who had been with Busch Gardens who had access to these wonderful inflatable blow up figures. We had an Aladdin popping out of a lamp that was like 14 feet tall, taking over a lot of one of the rooms. We even used a boom and we put a Rapunzel's braid coming out of one of the minarets. So we did some crazy things and it attracted big crowds, but we found that that wasn't really true to our mission. We had Alice in Wonderland. We used these gigantic puppet figures. People could not see the museum collection at all. They were just here to see the event, and we didn't want that any longer. So we pivoted again and we changed, and now we're more true to our mission. Back then, we tried all different kinds of things. We've been running this event for 45 years now, so we've done a lot of things and we've changed a lot of things to make it more streamlined and better. We used to bring in risers and music groups, and it created a real bottleneck in our corridors and hallways and spaces, and wasn't great on the historic furnishings that had to be stored. And so we have dwindled those down to just having a single harpist performing in the hall, or a guitarist, or something more in keeping with the museum mission. And so that's worked out very well for us. This is showing the early years when the staff had to decorate everything using the artificial trees. Every single branch of the trees had to be hand put on, hand lit with lights. And it took the entire staff days and days just to set up and install the event. That has now changed. We have found some wonderful professionals in the area that have event planning background, and we train them to come in and do just what we want them to do. So it's working out much more effectively than in the past. Can we go? Okay. This is showing you now our event runs for 32 days, and we do charge admission. We have timed, we don't use time tickets anymore, but we have online ticket sales that's worked out beautifully for us. So people can buy their tickets in advance and come when they wish to come. And it kind of lets us know how many volunteers we need to have on hand for different groups. We also ask tours and buses to pre-book so that we know when they're coming and we can accommodate the crowds that way. It has become our annual fundraiser and is no longer a friend raiser. It's that too, but it does make money for the museum. And of course, we offer free admission for the members. And we're in the planning stages for our 45th event. The photo on the right, you can see our 14-foot tall tree that takes like 40,000 lights. So it's a major undertaking to set these things up. And we're so thankful that we found a team that can do this part for us. And staff does a lot of pre-planning. See if it will advance again, please. This is showing more of the rooms today where you can actually see some of the furnishings that are part of the museum. We have been gifted an antique feather tree, a German feather tree with all the ornaments, hand-blown glass German ornaments and hand-blown glass garland. So there's some very rare things that people can come here and see, and you don't see this sort of stuff everywhere all the time. The case on the left shows a lot of the historic bottle brush trees and Christmas ephemera that we borrow from different collectors. As the curator and registrar, it's my job to borrow loans to support the different themes for the rooms. And so each year we borrow between 400 to 500 items and we set those in place. So our decorating team does the lighting and sets up the artificial trees. And then I do this tree with volunteers myself under close supervision so that we don't break anything. Next, please. Go advance. If I can, okay, there we go. This is showing you more current day photographs and how we try to educate our public with a little bit of history on our building. And so our theme is more, it's Victorian Christmas Stroll, but then our underlying theme would be Grand Hotel Celebrates the Season. So we're showing you some of the things from the hotel and some of the people that stayed here. The picture on the left shows a John Philip Sousa tree, and he was one of the guests here at the hotel in the 1920s. So it's fun for us to show some things that will educate the public on guests that were once here with the hotel. And one of the things that we do that's kind of fun is a game. We found that children that visit tend to go through really fast, and we wanted to slow them down. So in 2010, we started this little scavenger hunt thing where we had them find like a 2 to 3 inch tall portrait of Henry Plant throughout the rooms. And so that would give them something to pause and look for. And then that evolved into a little mouse, and we would hide mice in all the rooms. And that was a takeoff on 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, Not a Creature Was Stirring. So we hid the mice, and people really love doing the scavenger hunt and finding things within the museum. And now, the last couple of years, instead of finding mice, we have been hiding alligators. And you might wonder why we're hiding alligators. And that goes back and salutes Gloria Swanson, who was a guest here at the hotel as a little girl, and her father bought her a pet alligator to take home on the train car to New York. And so we are featuring alligators in the room as our scavenger hunt this year, and people have great fun doing it. And although the game was designed for children, more adults are really getting into it, and adults, you'll see them fighting in the hall to figure out how many alligators each of them has found. So it's become great fun for all. The tree that you see pictured on the right shows a lot of our antique ornaments. So we always try to have a couple of trees with Victorian style ornaments. And year before last, we even cut out letters that said Merry Christmas out of old newspapers to kind of reminisce and show you traditions that they would have done years and years ago with such a site. Next, please. Here are some of the statistics. I mentioned that we began as a 3-day event. The event now runs for 32 days. And it was very, very labor intensive for the staff until fairly recently. And we have now hired some part-timers to help us with visitor services and collecting the money at the front desk and working with tickets and also helping us in our museum store. And the store benefits from the stroll significantly and then contributes those funds back into the museum. Our attendance has grown from 600 people in the early days to up to 15,000 when we did the fairy tale event. And right now it's running around 8,000, but we're making more money than we did before because ticket prices have risen. Expenses can vary year to year depending on donations. We had a group donate artificial trees to us one year, and those have some are still around. And then every now and then we'll have to buy something new as things wear out. And right now, a lot of our expenses go to batteries. We're using battery powered candles. We found that they're much more efficient than the candles that we used to use and not as dangerous. And we love having the remote controls that can turn them on and off. Next, please. Some takeaways. We recommend sticking with your mission and policies. We kind of plan our event during the summer and during the year and try to educate the public as they go through. As Holden and Amanda said, train your staff and volunteers prior to your install and event days, and it makes a world of difference. We don't use live trees or greenery any longer in our site. I mentioned about the battery powered candles. One of my big jobs is protecting the objects. So we use a lot of barriers between the holiday decor and the artifacts. And one of the biggest things that's helped us is social media advertising. And it's come a long way. And we really generate a lot of buzz in the community and interest through social media advertising, and it doesn't cost us a whole lot. And then, of course, television coverage always increases the numbers and the interest. So our event has attracted a lot of attention, and we gain new members every single year that we do it. And it's always great fun to see people returning to the stroll. We have one family that comes dressed up in matching pajamas every year, and they have their picture made under our big tree. So I always look for them every year. But I encourage you to explore different events that you can do at your venue. It's a lot of fun. It attracts a lot of people and visitors and new interest in your site. I think we're going to open it up to questions if anyone should have some questions.
I know Amanda's not here. If anybody has any questions, you can shoot me an email and I'll get in touch with Amanda, or you can just email her directly. If you have questions, I will make sure they get to her. I have a couple of questions and maybe I missed it. Holden, did you say how much the ticket costs were for your haunted house?
Yes, the haunted house tickets we price at $20 per attendee.
Okay, that sounds like a good, reasonable.
And the other events we have are free to the public.
Okay. And how big are those Cuban sandwiches?
This big, like real Cubans.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. Because they're all crusty, and they hot press them, And of course, if anybody's from South Florida, real Cubans have salami in them, so real
Yep.
Cubans. So.
Okay, Carla's raised her hand. Carla, you have a question?
Are we unmuted? Oh, yes. So we're part of like a local government organization, so we're not allowed to have alcohol on site, which is obviously like a huge draw for that like 25 to 34 adult range. We've tried doing like a partnership with a local bar where they can get a token and go get a drink after it, which was like mildly successful. But does anyone have any other like ideas or recommendations or things you've done to like other than mocktails, kind of get that crowd in, or work with different breweries, or like any ideas from that?
You could, I mean, if you can't have alcohol, what about like, you know, a nice coffee shop and they do coffee, lattes, matcha, something like that on site, you know, have like a nice coffee and tea cart. There's an appeal for that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Different adult beverage. Thank you.
Or
Thank
Holden,
you.
I know you said you guys are getting a venue across the street. Maybe if there's something nearby where you could kind of make your event into a little bit of a stroll where people could, you know, connect with your community next door. I don't know what you have around you.
We're kind of on a main street, but it's not a very hip main street, if that makes sense. I mean, we have some things, but
No bars in walking distance.
no. We have
Well,
a
we
couple
could-
restaurants.
Potentially have partner with a local cafe, and maybe they could offer cocktails for the
That's
night
true.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they could do like a pop-up.
True. That's very true. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? I have a question for Susan. I know you said you get a lot of loans for the Victorian decor pieces that you have. Is there a reason why you haven't asked for donations for Victorian decor or like use some of your funds raised to buy some for your permanent collection so you don't have to do the loans?
Yes, it's all about storage. We have none. So we have to be very, very picky on what we take. We would love to have gifts to the collection, and we did take one of the feather trees when that was offered to us. But we just don't have the storage. All of our trees are stored off-site, and our storage happens to be former Tampa Bay Hotel bathrooms and closets. That's it. We just don't have any.
That makes sense. Natalie says as someone who's worked in a similar situation, sparkling cider or a cocoa bar would have also worked well. Those are some good ideas. For Susan, when
It's frozen. I can't hear the question, Laura. Sorry.
oh, that's okay.
Can you say it
Somebody
again?
asked when you're doing the decorating, is your museum open to the public?
We used to be, but no, we closed for a whole week to do the decorating because we don't want any safety hazards with the public walking around under ladders and things like that. So we closed for one whole week and do the big decorating, and then we're reopen and we're still decorating, but we're doing things behind stanchions and barriers where we're not right there in the public pathways. But the public, they love seeing the, behind the scenes and any of the decorating going on. And they don't seem to mind. They would be here for every bit of it if we would let them.
All right, thank you. Okay, anybody else have questions? I know we've gone over just a little bit, but I'm happy to stay if anybody else has questions or if we're ready to wrap it up. All right, well, I want to thank our speakers. You guys did a great job. Some really great ideas for fundraising and some nice opportunities to do things in the fall and winter. And you've still got a chance to do it because it's still only May. Hope to see you guys at the next webinar. And thank you for coming. Oh, I've got.
Thank